and welcome back to Hill and Ponton's VA Disability blog. I'm Natalia, Jofre, the company COO.
And I'm attorney Rachel Cheek.
Today, Rachel and I are going to be talking about attaining 100% disability. And I guess, first of all, Rachel, what is the purpose of service-connected benefit?
The purpose of the compensation, service-connected benefits at all, is to compensate you for something that happened during service. The VA recognizes that it was due to your service that this disability happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of the ratings for each disability is to compensate appropriately for the level of disability. So, for example, you have to think maybe you have some hearing loss that you incurred during service. That's not super severe, but people need to speak louder, and you have little trouble understanding things. Of course, that's a disability and you need to be compensated for it. But then think about someone who is completely deaf due to their service, was exposed to loud noises or had an actual injury to their eardrums and they literally cannot hear. Both of those hearing losses should be compensated, but one is much more severe than the other, and so that's going to have a higher rating than a more minimal, not minimal, but a less severe condition.
Right. How do the ratings work? What's the range?
So ratings can range from 0%, and so that's something I see a lot actually in hearing loss, where they recognize that you have a condition, that it was caused by service, but the hearing loss as an example, or just the condition in general, is not severe enough to actually disable you. It doesn't hold you back in any way from living a normal life, so say the VA. Whereas as you get higher up in disability, the ratings go higher as well. So you can have, whether 0% ratings, there's also 10%, 20%, all the way up to 100%.
And what's the difference in the compensation between the ratings? So I would assume that the higher the rating, the more you're going to get, obviously. Mm-hmm. But are they big differences, or is there a set monetary value in between them?
Yes, and so I'm not going to give you exact numbers because they do change every year. They are adjusted for cost of living adjustments each year. But essentially, yes, there's a set rate, and you can literally just Google VA compensation rates. They have a table out there. And basically, if you're rated 10% for a condition, that payment is going to be less than if you're rated 50% for a condition, then if you're rated 70%, and then it goes higher as you go on.
Right.
However, it's not really proportionate. So whereas you would think the difference between like a 90% disability payment and a 100% disability payment is almost twice as much as you would be getting.
Okay.
You are compensated much higher once you hit that 100% rate, because the VA recognizes, okay, 100% disabled. There's nothing that you're going to be able to do reasonably due to these conditions, and they compensate you accordingly.
So that's why it's important to fight so hard for that 100% disability rating, because it really is going to make a much bigger difference monetarily speaking.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you something, just going back to, and we'll use 10% as an example. Let's say you're rated 10% for hearing. Is it the same exact amount as if you were rated 10% for your back? So in other words, does it matter which body part or which condition you're rated that particular number for?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked. And no, it actually doesn't. Yes. No, that's great. I didn't even think to explain that. But yeah, so the way that the conditions are rated, now each condition, the amount that it's rated is based upon certain symptoms. But once you have that rating, it doesn't matter if you're rated for your knee, for your ears, for your mental condition. The VA is only going to look at the percentage that you're rated to determine that compensation rate. So 30% disabled for orthopedic conditions is going to get paid the same as 30% disabled from PTSD, if that makes sense.
How do you request a higher rating?
When you request a higher rating, it's got to be for something that you're already service-connected for. If you're not service-connected for, say, a neck condition, you can't request a higher rating because you don't have a rating yet.
Okay.
So you have to already be service connected for something. But what you can do is, it's a simple form that you file. I believe it's the 526B. You just let the VA know that you've got an additional condition, that your condition is worsened. You go ahead and write into the VA, let them know specifically what condition is worsened, and they'll start developing a claim for that. You can also, which I bet we're going to talk about later in this video, you can also file a VA Form 8940, which is a request for increased rating due to individual unemployability. And so that's when your conditions affect your ability to work. And you ask the VA to start a claim for that. That'll immediately start them to look into all of your ratings for your service-connected conditions, and all ratings that you name, are conditions that you name that prevent you from being able to work. If you put that on your VA 8940, the VA will go ahead and start looking into all of those conditions that you name to see if you should be getting a higher disability rating.
So when you initially file a claim, can you go in saying, I want 100%?
It's a good question. I mean, you can, but you can't, I mean, there's not really any point to argue about the rating until you're actually connected.
You can't suggest a percentage. You're basically just going to say, these are my problems and I want service-connected benefits. And then they're going to come back and assign you a percentage that they feel is fair.
Yes, and you can have a rating in your mind. I mean, you can think, okay, look,
Right,
I've done some research.
saying.
I think I should have 50%. But until you're initially service connected, you're not going to have a rating to argue about.
But it doesn't really work that way. You're going to probably go in, file the claim, ask for service connected benefits. Then the VA is going to award you a percentage. I would say more likely than not, it's not going to be accurate. And then from there, you can appeal it and start asking for more.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they'll base that percentage, that initial disability percentage, on your records and C&P exams if you are granted service connection.
Okay. How hard is it to get the 100% disability rating?
You asked a good question again. So this is something that is actually pretty difficult to get to. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And the reason being is because, well, generally it's generally pretty hard to have like one condition that's 100% disabling. Again, not impossible, it happens. Very severe cases of coronary artery disease, very severe cases of mental disabilities. That can happen where you may be rated 100% for one single condition. But more likely what's going to happen is if you have multiple conditions, those conditions are all going to be rated, have their own ratings, and these ratings combine into your total combined rating. I'm going to break that down. So
please do.
So the total combined rating is what the VA looks at when they're doing their figuring out how much money you're going to get monthly. So how we talked about earlier, you know, a 30% rating for the knee is the same as a 30% rating for the mental disorders, the same as a 30% rating for your back. Okay, well, what if you have more than one condition? So I'm going to give you an example, show you, or kind of explain the way the VA calculates this, because and if it doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. It doesn't really make sense to anybody who does this.
That's right.
Say you've got a knee condition. You're rated at 20% for that knee condition. And you also have a headache condition that you're rated at 50% for. Okay? So you've got a 20% rating and a 50% rating. Normal math, you would think, okay,
70%.
70%. No, that'd be too easy. That would be far too easy. So what the VA does is they look at it, they rate you as a percentage. So you've got, let's start with your knee condition. You see that you got a 20% rating. You're 20% disabled due to your knee. Well, the VA looks at, okay, well, if you're 20% disabled, you're 80% healthy. So when you have any additional conditions added on, rather than just adding that 50% headache rating to the 20% knee rating and getting 70, they're not doing that. They look at the 80%, healthy rating that you have. So you're 80% healthy and you've got a 50% disability rating for your headache, right?
Yeah.
Like my math brackets?
I love it.
So rather than just giving you an additional 50% on your combined rating, they're going to take 50% of the 80% of the healthy, ability that you have. And so really what would make sense is for you to have a 50% rating for your headache. It's actually, they're only considering that 40% disabling.
Because they're taking 50% of 80, which is 40. So then they're doing 40 plus 20?
Yes.
So you're getting 60%.
Bingo. So your combined rating is actually going to be 60%. Now, I don't know how to make that make sense. Like, I don't know how to explain, the VA's reasoning for that, but that is how they calculate it.
What if you file claims for multiple disabilities, which is what most veterans do? So let's throw PTSD into the mix. So how do they know which percentage to apply first?
Well, it actually doesn't matter what order that the percentages are applied in. For example, I gave you the 20% rating first because it was easier to do without a pen and paper.
Yeah.
They actually, VA doesn't do this by hand. They have a calculator tool that they use to make sure that this all adds up. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I know that sometimes I've had cases where I've had to go through by hand and make sure they've gotten the, combined percentage correct. And so no one's really sitting here with like an abacus calculating this out. The VA understands this is a difficult concept to grasp, even for their own employees. So the VA uses a calculator tool as well. We actually have one on our website. I play around with it all the time when I'm looking at individual cases, and it's very helpful.
We can, but you can't. We've heard from a lot of veterans, they love it because they can literally plug in their numbers and it'll tell them, according to VA math, this is what you would get, or this is what your percentage, pardon me, would be.
Right. So I didn't answer your question as far as what the total combined rating would be, because I can't do math in my head that quickly. But it would take into account, the 60% rating that you already have. So they'd look at you as 40% healthy, and then whatever rating you would have for your PTSD, they would only take out of that. They would take the percentage of that 40% ability remaining.
Wow. Yes. I mean, within the world of things that don't make sense, it makes sense.
Right. And as you go higher up, it's harder and harder to make a significant jump in the ratings. So the closer you are to 100%, I have tons of vets that are 90% disabled. Getting that to that extra 10%, you think that, okay, nothing. Okay, I'll get a 10% for my hearing loss or my arm, my shoulder. That doesn't work that way. The higher your combined rating, the harder it is to get to 100%, and the higher additional ratings that you need for each condition to get there.
Wow. So they almost purposely make it difficult for you to attain that 100% so that you can get a higher benefit.
Yes, it is very difficult to get that schedular 100%, but there's a workaround for that. This is why individual unemployability is so great.
That was my next question.
Okay, perfect.
What is individual unemployability? Because I'm thinking, okay, so if you can't get to 100%, is that the plan B? Is that the alternative, or what is it?
Yes, actually, a lot of times that's the plan A, because so individual unemployability, the concept of this arises because VA does understand how difficult it is to get 100% schedular rating. You can have 8 different conditions, but you might not meet that 100%. However, just because you don't meet this criteria doesn't mean that you're not disabled, of course. Right. So VA has implemented with individual unemployability, this is a way that while you're not 100% schedularly rated, the VA recognizes that essentially you are totally disabled and you're not able to work because of your conditions. And so this is something where if the VA determines that you're qualified, you can actually get compensated at the 100% rate without having a 100% rating. There are certain standards that you do have to meet. You do have to have a combined rating of at least 70%. So our example earlier with the headaches in the knee wouldn't qualify. That veteran would only be at 60% combined rating. So it does, you do have to have, it is intended for the more serious cases with multiple conditions or higher ratings. So you have to have a rating of at least 70%, or more than one. You can have one condition that's rated at 60% by itself. A lot of times I'll see, let me give you an example, 50% for PTSD and say, yeah, you've got 40% for your back or something like that. That's something, another one that I see a lot for the single condition is heart. And again, coronary artery disease, that can be rated at 60% by itself. And I have seen that be used to request individual unemployability.
So if you have 60% for your heart, could you then possibly qualify for?
Yes.
Just with the heart alone.
Just with the heart alone. What you
have
to show.
For the individual unemployability. Okay.
So there's 2 requirements for individual unemployability. First is that you have the combined rating of 70% or the single rating of 60%. Second, most important thing that you have to show is that you're not able to work due to those conditions. Whatever condition that you're schedularly qualified for, you have to show that you're unable to work because of that. So you would just want, a note from your doctor, a note from a vocational expert, your own testimony, your own statement saying, because of X, Y, and Z that I suffer from symptoms due to my heart condition, I can't, climb stairs, I can't get up and down, I have to lay down a lot, whatever. Something that would show that you're not able to work due to those conditions.
Most veterans aren't able to do any type of work. Sometimes they want to try, or they want to try to do, a little bit of work, things like, we get this question a lot. And so I think based on the explanation you just gave, the answer is, if you're getting TDIU, you really shouldn't be working.
Right. And TDIU is our abbreviation for total disability, individual unemployability.
Okay.
By the way, and just for anyone watching, if they're like, what's TDIU?
Yeah, sorry. So for individual unemployability, you shouldn't be working. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate because I mean, the entire benefit is based on, they're paying you 100% at that rate, which is around, it's a little more than $3,000 for a single person right now. So not counting if you are married or have children, then the rate goes up. But yeah, you're getting paid that because the VA says, okay, you can't work, so here we're going to try to make up for that. So if you're working and gathering this benefit, they're not going to be happy about that.
So forgetting about individual unemployability, if you're getting just 100% service connection, once again, still giving you that same monetary benefit, but instead of it being under the umbrella of individual unemployability, they're giving it to you as 100% service connection. Same question, can you work?
Yes. So, yes. So because individual unemployability, the whole, half of that whole thing is that you can't work. Proving that you deserve this benefit is that you can't work. So you can't work if you're getting that. The VA is going to not be happy about that. They're going to take it back. You might have some overpayment issues down the line. Now, it's okay if you start working and you let the VA know, hey, don't need it anymore. No problem. But I've seen a couple times.
They process those claims quickly, don't they?
Oh yeah, they'll do those claims quickly. But so if you're 100%, you're rated at 100%. That's just acknowledging, hey, look, you're pretty bad off. You are essentially 100% disabled. You can't, your conditions are so severe that they don't expect you to be able to work. However, if you have that rating, that doesn't mean, and it's not under the individual unemployability umbrella, there's nothing legally that prevents you from being able to work. Like if you're able to, if you're able to find a job that, say you're rated at 100% for like a mental condition or combined ratings, if you find a job that you're able to do, that's no problem with that. You can totally welcome to do that. There's nothing, as long as you're not receiving individual unemployability, there's nothing with the VA guidelines that would prevent you from being allowed to work.
Oh, that's great. Because I know we do get a lot of questions, and like people have relatives that own businesses and they accommodate them. They can basically come and go as they please. So that's great to know.
Right. Well, we'll do another video on that sometime.
Oh, okay. Is that a whole other topic?
That's a whole nother topic. Accommodations and individual unemployability. So that's one we can do. But yeah, absolutely. As long as if you have the rating, that's why it's kind of, sometimes people want to get the 100% rating. That's why sometimes people are very stuck on that 100% rating. They want to be able to work, which I totally understand. But in some cases, it's just not possible with the VA math to be able to get that. And sometimes individual unemployability is the better course. Okay.
One last question. Can you be reduced if you're at 100% benefits?
Yes, in some circumstances. It really depends on the specifics of your case, because sometimes there will be a finding in your rating decision that gets you up to 100% that says notes that you're permanently and totally disabled. They don't expect any improvement in the condition. This would be something like maybe if you had Parkinson's disease or some other degenerative disease that they don't improve with time. You might be able to hold it off and keep it steady, but it's not going to get better. So sometimes you will have conditions like that where they're not going to do you for another exam. Sometimes with individual unemployability that happens, where they recognize you're permanently and totally disabled. They're not going to put you in for another exam. But a lot of times you will be, you can see it on your rating sheet that comes from the VA. It will say, say 50% for migraine headaches, subject to future exam, June 2021. So a lot of conditions, they will have repeat exams just to make sure that your condition is stable, that it hasn't improved. And sometimes they will find, a lot of times erroneously they'll find, but they'll still make a finding that, so-and-so's condition has improved, therefore we're going to propose to reduce your rating. And that's a whole nother video in and of itself. So, but yes, that is a possibility. So that is something to keep in mind, unless you have a specific finding that you're permanently and totally disabled. Even if you have 100% rating, it's possible that you could be reduced down the line. The longer you have a rating and that it stays in place, like the more number of years, the harder it is for the VA to reduce it. Again, that's a whole nother video.
Okay, speaking of another video, we're going to do another one after this. But for now, if you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website or call our office. And otherwise, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.